What kind of mess is this? The jaw muscles of Yu Shinfeng, the shadowless monk, twitched. In the distance, there was a blaze of fire. The flames were burning terribly as if they were swallowing up the sky, while the acrid smoke was overturning the entirety of Chengdu. The streets were full of poor people who had fled to escape the fire. Egu! What do we do with that? Our house is all burned up. Hoo-hoo! The streets were full of the screams of the poor. Li Soha frowned and asked, how did this happen? There is something unusual going on. At that moment, a familiar man reached Yu Shinfeng's eyes. A swordsman who radiates a sharp aura from his skinny body. It was Gamil He, the bamboo leaf swordsman, one of the members of the Seven Stars. Even in the extreme confusion, Gamil He was watching the situation with a cold sharp gaze. The appearance of Gamil He, as if looking for someone, drew Yu Shinfeng's attention. Yu Shinfeng was an experienced warrior. The moment he saw Gamil He's behavior that did not match the surrounding environment, he immediately knew that this incident had something to do with him. Without realizing it, he followed Gamil He. After that, Li Soha followed. Li Soha's eyes were twinkling. Even this chaos was an object of curiosity to her because she had lived most of her life in a boring manner. What on earth is happening? Li Soha felt her heart pounding. She always dreamed of experiencing Jianghu's romance. Wandering freely, creating meaningful friendship, sharing experiences and hardships, and dating a cool-looking warrior. It is the usual form of imagination that most first-timers would dream of. Yu Shinfeng looked at his niece with a worried expression for a moment. Jianghu is not as romantic as Li Soha thinks it was. However, no matter how much he would tell her, if she can't experience it for herself, it's no use. Yu Shinfeng sighed and followed Gamil He. Gamil He looked around diligently, not knowing that Yu Shinfeng and Li Soha were following behind him. The sharp gaze that flashed like a hawk was terrifying even from afar. What are you looking for? Yu Shinfeng looked at the place Gamil He's gaze was headed. But he couldn't find anything unusual. The Gamil He who Yu Shinfeng knew was not an easy man. Although he was the sixth member of the Seven Stars, there were not many warriors who could be said to be much stronger than him in Hunan. In particular, his bamboo-like sharp sword was rumored to be one of the strongest swords. Even Yu Shinfeng wasn't confident of his victory if he faced Gamil He in a head-on confrontation. He couldn't help but wonder what Gamil He was looking for. Li Soha groaned. What is Mr. Gam looking for? Well, I'm curious too. Whatever it is, it must be quite important. Otherwise, his eyes wouldn't be full of life. Can you feel his aura? Of course. You'd be an idiot if you don't notice when he's already intensely searching like that. Haha. That's right. Yu Shinfeng looked at Li Soha and smiled. He was glad about his niece's sharp eyesight. In order to survive in Jianghu, the ability to read the opponent's mind and eyes were essential. In that respect, Li Soha's keen eyes were enough to get a passing score. That was then. Oh. Li Soha suddenly gasped. What is it? Mr. I don't see Mr. Gam anymore. What? Yu Shinfeng looked around. Gamil He, who was looking around with vigor until a while ago, was nowhere to be seen. It was only for a moment that he averted his gaze since he was conversing with Li Soha. In that brief moment, the Gamil He disappeared. What? Did he notice that we were chasing him so he ran away? Yu Shinfeng immediately shook his head. Gamil He was not the kind of person who was afraid of anyone. He may be uncomfortable with Yu Shinfeng, but he is not the type of person who would be afraid to the point of avoiding them. He hurriedly ran to the place where Gamil He had disappeared. Let's go together, uncle. Li Soha ran following Yu Shinfeng. The two soon arrived at the place where Gamil He had disappeared. The two people who looked around let out a suppressed moan at the same time. What? Kerf. Li Soha covered her mouth with her hand as if she was about to vomit, while Yu Shinfeng couldn't hide his astonished expression. He was buried in a corner that could not be seen from where they had just been, like a crumpled piece of furniture. Gamel Hay's neck was cut long, and blood was flowing out. The absence of ups and downs in his chest meant that he had already stopped breathing. "Oh, my. When?" Yu Shinfeng muttered as he approached Gamel Hay's body. It was only for a moment when he took his eyes off Gamel Hay. All he did was avert his eyes for a second while talking with Li Soha, but in that moment of distraction, Gamel Hay had already been killed by someone. Even with the body of Gamel Hay in front of him like this, he couldn't believe it. Yu Shinfeng himself was a well-known expert in the Jianghu, yet somebody managed to completely go unnoticed with his senses and took the life of Gamel Hay. Aside from deceiving his senses, he could not believe that Gamel Hay had been attacked defenselessly. Judging from the condition of the body, it was clear that Gamel Hay had lost his life without knowing how he died. Jubit. He got chills down his spine and goosebumps spread all over his body. Is this even possible? I can't believe that an expert of his level was able to be taken out so easily. The difference in force between Gamel Hay and Yu Shinfeng was not that great. If Gamel Hay had been killed so easily, it would have been the same for him. Judging from the wounds of Gamel Hay, it was clear that someone had made a surprise attack. If so, then it was clearly the work of an assassin. How could there be such an assassin in the world? Uncle? It must be him. Who are you talking about? The man who turned Chengdu upside down recently. So the rumors about him were true? Li Soha made an expression of disbelief. She had heard about the rumors of a man who had dealt with all the great sects in Sichuan on his own, but she thought the rumors were exaggerated. In fact, most of the rumors handed down through word of mouth are often inflated. So she thought it would be the same this time. So she didn't really pay it any attention. A deep shadow fell on Yu Shinfeng's eyes. It's hard to believe, but there's no way we can't believe it now that the results are right in front of us. Oh my God. I can't believe such an assassin really existed. To think a great disaster was lurking in Sichuan. How did the 7 stars even get involved with him? Who are their contractors? Well, I can't even guess what's going on with them, but it's certain that a crisis has come to the 7 stars. At Yu Shinfeng's words, Li Soha trembled without realizing it. Sa Hyokyang's eyes resembled those of a wolf. It wasn't just his eyes. His tenacity of never letting go of the prey, and even the cruelty of biting it alive, was the same as that of a wolf. So Sa Hyokyang's younger brothers used to call him the Mad Wolf, instead of his nickname, the Storm Fire Dragon. Now Sa Hyokyang's eyes were that of a mad wolf. He was staring at his opponent with wolf-like cruel eyes. A boy about 15 or 16 years old was crawling on the floor where his eyes were directed. Suruk. The boy squirmed and crawled like a bug. He stretched out his right arm and placed it on the floor, then pulled himself up as hard as he could. Then he stretched out his opposite arm and repeated the same action. So, little by little, the boy crawled forward. He was struggling to get away from Sa Hyokyang even a little. The name of the boy, who was covered in blood and crawling like a bug, was Nam Xinwu. It was only a few days before Nam Xinwu was discovered by Sa Hyokyang. He tried to escape from Sa Hyokyang, but to no avail. Sa Hyokyang was an old wolf. He was ferocious and skilled. From the beginning, it was impossible for a young boy without any weapons to escape from him, who had numerous hunting experiences. Hoof. Huff. Nam Xinwu breathed roughly as he crawled. Every area he passed by was stained with blood. Nam Xinwu was alive even after bleeding to the point where he would have died immediately if he were an ordinary person. No matter how strong a person is, he cannot survive after losing this much blood. What the hell are you? Sa Hyokyang approached Nam Xinwu and asked. Nam Xinwu didn't answer. Sa Hyokyang wasn't expecting an answer either. He just casually said the question that popped into his head. Puk. Arg. Sa Hyokyang stabbed Nam Xinwu in the leg with a dagger. It was like pricking an insect with a needle. Nam Shinwu's leg was deeply pierced with the dagger, making his leg fixed on the floor. Nam Shinwu struggled, but the dagger that pierced his leg did not fall out. This is really amazing. How can a human be like this? Sahyokyung sat down and made eye contact with Nam Shinwu. Nam Shinwu's bloodshot eyes were filled with fear. I'm sorry. Help me. You haven't done anything wrong, sweetheart. Sahyokyung looked at Nam Shinwu and grinned. Nam Shinwu's body trembled as if he had foreseen his fate with Sahyokyung's creepy cold smile. Sahyokyung pulled out another dagger from his bosom. The black forged dagger was emitting an eerie light. Sahyokyung put the dagger on Nam Shinwu's back and said, "But Jianghu is the type of place where a person gets killed even if they did nothing wrong." Suek. When Sahyokyung threw the dagger, Nam Shinwu's back was split long. Blood gushed out as his bare skin was exposed. Cook. Hyuk. Instead of screaming, Nam Shinwu sobbed and whimpered. He didn't even have the strength to scream anymore. Sahyokyung looked at Nam Shinwu closely. He found it surprising that Nam Shinwu still had more blood to shed even after shedding so much blood. What's even more surprising is that Nam Shinwu is still alive. Although Sahyokyung was an experienced fighter in Jianghu, he had never seen such a sight. So that's why they asked us to get you. Sahyokyung nodded his head with a convinced look. For some reason, Nam Shinwu wouldn't die no matter how serious his injuries are. Whether it was because of an elixir he took when he was young, or an ability he received for an unpredictable reason, if they could find out the secret of Nam Shinwu, the dream of immortality is not any more impossible. There were quite a few people in Jianghu with immense wealth and power. However, no matter how rich and powerful they were, all of them couldn't avoid death. Since they were born as a human, growing up and dying of aging were inevitable processes. Most people take the process naturally, but there are those who don't. To such people, Nam Shinwu was like a mouth-watering food. If they can take him in, they can cut him into pieces, disassemble him, and study his every nerve, blood vessels, and bone marrow. Sruk. Sahyokyung once again slashed Nam Shinwu's back with a dagger. Nam Shinwu sobbed and dropped his head to the floor without crying. It seemed unusual to see his body trembling. It seems he is slowly reaching his limits. Sahyokyung retrieved his dagger. It's good to satisfy his curiosity, but it's him who will get in trouble if Nam Shinwu dies. The request he received was to catch Nam Shinwu alive. He had to keep him alive and breathing to receive his reward. As Sahyokyung carried Nam Shinwu, who was struggling to breathe, on his shoulders, Big Brother Cho Samchik, the youngest member of the Seven Stars, called and ran up to him. The moment Sahyokyung saw Cho Samchik's contorted face and bloodshot eyes, he already felt apprehensive. He had a hunch that something had happened. What's going on? Oh, our sixth brother. Cho Samchik couldn't even finish speaking. Sahyokyung put down Nam Shinwu, who was on his shoulder, and asked hurriedly, "What is it?" "Dead." "What?" "Brother Ilhei is dead." "What kind of bullshit is that? How could Ilhei die?" "It's true. A while ago, Yu Shinfeng found our brother's corpse and told me about it. Before coming here, he happened to meet Yu Shinfeng. Yu Shinfeng informed Cho Samchik that Gam Ilhei had died and told him where the body was located." "Who the hell? Who killed Ilhei? Was it Yu Shinfeng?" "No. He just found our brother's body. He has nothing to do with it." "Then who?" Sahyokyung's eyes trembled. He didn't know. That this was just the beginning.